Every country in the world is very different from each other demographically, geographically, culturally, traditionally, and many other factors that make a country unique. America and Australia are two very different countries in the world, and the differences between them deserve close attention. But before we get started, subscribe to our channel, give us a like and share this video on social media. Next, we'll tell you about the differences between the US and Australia that you didn't know about. Australia is one of the youngest countries in the world. Its history goes back only a few centuries. Back in the 19th century, Australia was a British colony. The USA is one of the oldest and formed on the basis of colonization of the states of the world. Their history includes the era of colonialism, the struggle for independence, and the Civil War. Australia's culture is a mixture of European, Asian, and Aboriginal cultures. Australians are known for their friendliness, love of sports, and open-mindedness. American culture includes many elements from music and art to cuisine and fashion. Americans are known for their patriotism, concern for family, and freedom of speech. America and Australia, being two very different countries with different demographics, geography, and culture, are different for the following reasons. It is perhaps difficult to argue that living in a rich country is better than living in a poor country. As of 2022, the main indicator of economic development, GDP in purchasing power parity according to the International Bank per capita, was in Australia $62.6 thousand, in the USA $76.4 thousand. Thus, the US is 22.4% ahead of Australia in terms of gross product per person. Let's compare the data on minimum and average wages in both countries. The minimum wage in Australia is set at $21.38 per hour and $812.60 per week, equivalent to about $14.70 per hour. The minimum wage in the United States is set at $7.25 per hour, equivalent to $1,276 per month with a 5-day workweek. Some states pay more. The average dirty wage, i.e., before taxes and other mandatory payments are deducted, is in Australia $5,758 Australian dollars, about $3,700. In the United States $4,635. The gap in average GDP per capita is exacerbated by differences in the cost of living. According to statistics from the Numbeo database as of early 2021, Australia is the more expensive country. Australia's price level for a set of basic goods and services, including food, consumer goods, transportation, communications, utilities, is on average 17% higher than in the US. In other words, $1,000 in the US has the same purchasing power as $1,170 in Australia. You can compare overall crime rates by using the crime index. This index is calculated by Numbeo, a portal specializing in assessing various aspects of life in all regions of the world, and shows how safe it is to live in a country in terms of the risk of becoming a victim of lawbreakers. The higher its value, the higher the risk. As of 2020, the crime index was 41.67 in Australia, 47.7 in the United States. To assess the law-abidingness of the population and the intensity of work of law enforcement agencies, let's pay attention to the statistics of intentional homicide and data on the number of Australians and Americans in prison. Out of every 100,000 inhabitants, the victims of murderers annually become, in Australia, 0.89 people, 4.96 in the United States. As of 2020, the number of people serving time in prisons and camps was, in Australia, 43.13 thousand people, or 169 prisoners per 100,000 population. In the USA, 94,000 people, or 639 prisoners per 100,000 population. Thus, in terms of crime-related risks, Australia is clearly the safer country. The quality of life in the country largely determines the life expectancy of its citizens. According to the latest data, the average life expectancy is 83 years in Australia, 81.3 years for men and 84.8 years for women. 78.5 years in the USA, 76.3 years for men and 80.7 years for women. An idea of the health of the population and the state of the healthcare system can be obtained from the prevalence of dangerous diseases in a country. Let's compare where diseases such as HIV, tuberculosis, and cancer are more common. According to the World Health Organization, the prevalence of HIV infection was: in Australia, 29,000 infected people, 0.11% of the population. The USA, 1,018,000 infected, 0.31% of the population. Tuberculosis patients. In Australia, 1,700 people, 7 per 100,000 population. In the USA, 9,800 people, 3 per 100,000 population. The situation with cancer incidence is as follows. In Australia, 452 new cases are detected annually per 100,000 population and 83 deaths are registered. In the USA, 362 new cases and 86 deaths from cancer are registered annually per 100,000 population. The quality of medicine in a country should be judged not so much by absolute indicators of cancer incidence, but by the ratio of new cases to deaths from cancer. The lower it is, the greater the proportion of those cured or continuing treatment, the better the healthcare system works. In the countries under consideration, we observe the following ratio between cases and deaths. In Australia, 0.18. In the USA, 0.24. We can compare the performance of the healthcare systems in Australia and the United States based on the Numbeo Quality of Care Index. This index comprehensively measures how well or poorly a country's healthcare system is performing and takes into account the extent to which hospitals are equipped with equipment and drugs, the professionalism of staff, and the accessibility of care in terms of cost. As of 2020, the index values are 78 in Australia. In the USA, 69. It is believed that it is more comfortable to live in a country where people are less exposed to harmful habits. Statistics given by WHO show the following level of alcohol consumption, in terms of pure alcohol. In Australia, 10.5 liters for every resident over 15 years of age, 16 liters for every man and 5 liters for every woman. In the United States, 10 liters for every person over 15 years of age, 15 liters for every man and 5 liters for every woman. How marked are the differences in alcoholic beverages preferred by Australians and Americans? In Australia, in terms of pure alcohol, beer accounts for 44% of consumption, wine 37%, spirits, vodka, brandy, etc. 12%, and other beverages, including homemade, 7%. In the USA, beer accounts for 50% of total alcohol consumption, wine 17%, and spirits 33%. The propensity to smoke is manifested in the countries under consideration as follows. In Australia, 15% of adult citizens remain active smokers, 17% of adult men and 13% of adult women smoke. In the United States, 17% of adults, 20% of adult men and 15% of adult women smoke regularly. In terms of per capita consumption of tobacco products, the US leads the way with an average of 1017 cigarettes per adult per year, while Australia averages 917 cigarettes per person. It's probably hard to think of an indicator that can accurately measure how satisfied people in a country are with their lives. Nevertheless, there are several such studies. For example, UN experts calculate the rating of the world's countries by happiness index, which allows you to understand how much the achievements of the state are able to provide its citizens with a happy life. According to data for 2019, the happier are Australians with a happiness index of 7.3, while in the United States, the specified indicator is 7. There is another generalized indicator, also used by the UN and taking into account the various reasons why citizens should feel comfortable, the Human Development Index. As of 2020, it is 0.944 in Australia and 0.926 in the US. People's satisfaction with their existence can be indirectly assessed by the number of suicides. After all, by logic, the better the life of citizens of the state, the less reasons they have for suicide. In the countries under consideration per 100,000 of the population there are, in Australia, 11.7 cases of suicide. In the United States, 13.7 cases. Although Australians and Americans have much in common in geography and culture, there are significant differences in language, political system, and religion. However, both nations are united in their desire for freedom and prosperity for their citizens. Guys, if you liked our video and you haven't subscribed to us yet, subscribe right now and share the video on social media. There will be a lot of interesting stuff in the next episodes. See you soon. Bye.